Good afternoon, and welcome to today's New York City Council hearing for the Committee on Women and Gender Equity. At this time, please silence all electronic devices. Please silence all electronic devices. No one may approach the dais at any time during this hearing. Chair, we are ready to begin.
Good afternoon and welcome to today's oversight hearing on examining the adequacy of domestic and gender-based violence data in New York City. I'm Councilmember Farah Lewis, Chair of the Committee on Women and Gender Equity. Thank you to everyone who has signed up to testify. We look forward to hearing from you. Today, the committee will consider the following legislation. Intro 459, sponsored by Councilmember Ung, requiring all domestic violence-related 311 complaints to be automatically transferred to the New York City Domestic Violence Hotline. Pre-considered resolution T 2025-4297, also sponsored by Councilmember Ung, calling upon the New York State Legislature to pass and the governor to sign S.2280 AA 4899A, which would require law enforcement officers to conduct a lethality assessment in incidents of domestic violence. Intro 1216, sponsored by Councilmember Lee, requiring cosmetology establishments to display a poster about gender-based violence. Intro 1297, sponsored by Councilmember Brooks Powers, reopening the look-back window to the victims of gender-motivated violence protection law. Reso 889, sponsored by Councilmember Menon, declaring New York City's commitment to affirm and defend continued access for reproductive rights. Intro 1188, sponsored by myself, requiring NGBV to create an informational resource, informational resource for newly married individuals. And Intro 1416, also sponsored by myself, increasing access to data around gender-based violence. As a survivor of domestic violence myself, this issue is deeply personal to me. Today's hearing is not only an opportunity to address a systemic crisis, but it is also a tribute to my own journey and to the countless individuals across Central Brooklyn who have shared their stories with me in pursuit of safety, justice, and healing. I am proudly grateful to have worked alongside powerful organizations that have supported both myself and my neighbors, including WARM, Haitian Centers Council, Brooklyn District Attorney Eric Gonzalez, and the Urban Justice Center, which represented me during my own domestic violence case. Their partnership and advocacy have been instrumental in helping survivors find strength, rebuild their lives, and reclaim their voices. Domestic and gender-based violence is a crisis that hides in plain sight. Often referred to as an invisible epidemic, today we are shedding a light on the severity of this issue in New York City. October is nationally recognized as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. It is a time when we raise awareness about the issue, honor the victims and survivors, and advocate for violence to end. To understand the full extent of the problem here in New York City, comprehensive and comparable data is crucial, and the data we have gathered reveals a sobering reality. According to NGBV, domestic violence homicides accounted for 17% of all homicides in New York City. While this data from NGBV shows the prevalence of gender-based violence and domestic violence across New York City, this picture is not a complete one. We must acknowledge and account for the underreporting of domestic violence. The data we collect from NGBV, while valuable, must be supplemented with information from sources like other city agencies and community-based organizations. Data on domestic and gender-based violence enables providers to understand the true scope of this type of violence. Victims' characteristics, their race and ethnicity, religion, class, English proficiency, age, sexuality, and gender can shape how they are affected by the abuse. And New York City lacks data on diverse and marginalized populations who often face barriers to disclosing abuse and accessing help. Domestic and gender-based violence can have devastating consequences for survivors' health and well-being. We need to learn more about the many ways this type of violence can take place and the context in which it can occur, so we can identify how best to meet survivors' needs. So today we'll hear from NGBV advocates and service providers and survivors of domestic and gender-based violence. And we ask, what data can we collect to ensure that reporting captures the experiences of survivors? How can we work across service providers to share information to improve services to address gender-based violence across the city? And many more questions. Thank you to the members of the Women and Gender Committee who have joined us today, including Councilmember Ung, and we also are joined on Zoom by Councilmember Caban, and we're joined by Public Advocate Jamani Williams. I would also like to thank committee staff Julia Goldsmith-Pinkham, Katie Selena, Ali Stouffer, and Taylor Francesco, as well as my own staff Daniel Heredia and Shruba Mishra for their work on today's hearing. Before we swear in the administration, we will hear remarks from Public Advocate Jamani Williams.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As mentioned, my name is Jamani Williams, Public Advocate of the City of New York. Thank you, Chair Lewis and members of the Committee on Women and Gender Equity for holding this hearing and allowing me the opportunity to provide a statement. Thank you, Commissioner, for being here as well. We live in an era in which men credibly accused of sexual harassment hold very powerful positions. Some even feel entitled to run for leadership here in New York City. It is more important than ever that we make it clear to New Yorkers who are survivors of domestic, sexual, or gender-based violence that you matter, you deserve closure, and we will not stop fighting for you. We know that COVID-19 pandemic was associated with a significant increase in the number of calls to domestic violence hotlines, both in New York City and nationwide. While calls to the New York City domestic violence hotline have declined in pre-pandemic levels, the number of NYPD domestic violence incident reports and the number of visits to the city's family justice centers have risen slightly each year since 2020. These concerning trends are compounded by a recent weak job growth and the upcoming opening of new casinos, both of which have been associated with increase in domestic violence. I'm able to share this information because I have dedicated staff who spend time locating, compiling, cleaning, and analyzing data published by the Mayor's Office to End Gender-Based Violence. I commend the city's efforts thus far to track data and on gender-based violence, but most New Yorkers, including many municipal offices and service providers, do not have the luxury of data-savvy staff members. Organizations and city offices supporting domestic violence survivors will benefit from an audit of the city's data on gender-based violence and from a dashboard compiling this data across the agencies. Introduction 416 would mandate these measures and so ensure our city programs are as well equipped as they can be to serve survivors. It is for this goal that I support Intro 1416 and this committee's effort to ensure that the city's data on gender-based violence are consistent, transparent, and easily accessible. The city offers several programs to those experiencing domestic or gender-based violence, but affected New Yorkers are too often unaware that they exist. Intros 1188 and 1216 will go a long way toward ensuring that more New Yorkers know about these resources. Introduction 1297 is particularly vital. If passed, this law will reopen the look-back window for the Gender Motivated Violence Act so that survivors of gender-based or sexual violence have full access to due process. In particular, we will clarify the law to allow survivors to pursue action against institutions that enable abuse by their staff members. It is even more painful that many of these institutions were run by New York City government. Last month's rally and many before in support of this law, we heard how important this ability would be for those New Yorkers who experience sexual abuse in juvenile detention centers. In a moment when too many abusers feel emboldened by government inaction, we must pass Intro 1227 to empower survivors and hold abusers and the institutions that protect them accountable. I want to thank the survivors who have been working on this bill and pushing it. I understand the trauma, empathize with the trauma of having to relive this time and time again. I'm hoping we can get this bill passed and some semblance of justice can finally occur. I would also hopefully prevent it from happening again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Public Advocate Williams. Now we will hear remarks from Councilmember Ung.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon. And thank you, everybody, for consideration today on my two pieces of legislation that I'm proud to have introduced and that have the potential to make a real difference in the lives of survivors of domestic and gender-based violence. When a victim of abuse finally takes the courageous step of reaching out for help for themselves, for their children, for their family, that moment is critical. It takes immense bravery to pick up the phone and ask for help. When they do, we should make sure that the help is immediate and direct. My bill intro 459 will require the city to ensure that any complaints related to domestic violence made through 311, whether through the website, the app, or over the phone, is immediately transferred to the New York City Domestic Violence Hotline. This hotline operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and staffed by professionals who are ready to help at any moment. The committee will also be considering a resolution that introduced that calls on New York State to pass on legislation requiring law enforcement officers to conduct a lethality assessment when responding to incidents of domestic violence. NYPD responds to roughly 230,000 domestic incidents every year, which translates to nearly 600 calls every day. Given that sheer volume, it is unreasonable to expect that even when the most experienced officers to accurately assess every situation and determine when a victim might be at risk of escalating violence or homicide. By requiring officers to conduct a lethality assessment, we are giving them a structured, research-backed way to identify the warning signs that a situation can turn deadly. I want to thank Speaker Adrian Adams for her leadership and advocacy on this issue, as well as being a champion for victims or survivors of domestic violence during her time City Council and as Speaker. Both my legislation and this resolution are about ensuring that when someone finally reaches out for help, that moment becomes the start of real safety and support and not a missed opportunity to intervene. Thank you again to the committee for considering these two pieces of legislation.
Thank you, Councilmember Ung. Councilmember Menon couldn't join us today, but she did provide a statement. Thank you, Chair Lewis, for holding today's hearing on Resolution 889, which will reaffirm New York City's commitment to defending reproductive rights and access. I would also like to thank my colleagues for co-sponsoring this effort to preserve reproductive freedoms of New Yorkers. Given the repeal of Roe v. Wade by the Supreme Court and the intensifying political climate in our nation, it is now more important than ever that we dedicate ourselves to safeguarding these essential rights. Reproductive rights are healthcare rights, and I look forward to this legislation progressing through the council so that we can continue to protect our basic freedoms and uphold our shared values as New Yorkers. I'm going to give her a second, but we'll hear next from Majority Whip Councilmember Brooks Powers. Let's give her 1 second.
Thank you, Chair Lewis, and thank you to all the survivors and advocates and members of the public who have joined us today. We are here because the promise of justice for survivors of gender-motivated violence is in jeopardy, and because the City Council has a duty to protect that promise. Earlier this year, a court ruling created a dangerous loophole in the Gender-Motivated Violence Act, threatening to dismiss hundreds of cases brought by survivors. Already 450 cases against juvenile detention facilities have been dismissed. Hundreds more are now at risk. These are not abstract cases. They include New Yorkers who have endured sexual assault and abuse at the hands of city-run facilities, the Epstein estate, and more. Without this bill, their pursuit of justice could end. Not because their claims lack merit, but because of a technical gap in the law. Intro 1297 closes that loophole. It reaffirms that survivors have the right to hold both individuals and institutions accountable for gender-based violence. The bill also creates a new one-year look-back window from March 2026 to March 2027, giving survivors another chance to come forward. This legislation is about more than law. It's about fairness, healing, and accountability. We know that for many survivors, The promises of speaking out takes time. The city should never turn its back on those who do. I want to thank the survivors once again who have shared their stories, the advocates who have worked tirelessly to bring us here, and my 41 colleagues who have already joined as co-sponsors. Together, we have built strong momentum, but we must move quickly to ensure no survivor loses their right to be heard. I urge my colleagues and the administration to move Intro 1297 forward without delay. Justice delayed is justice denied, and survivors cannot wait any longer. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Brooks Powers. I would like to remind everyone who wishes to testify in person today that you must fill out a witness slip, which you can find on the desk of the sergeant at arms near the entrance of the room. Please fill out the slip even if you have already registered in advance that you will be testifying in person today. If you wish to testify on any of the legislation, please indicate on the witness slip whether you are here to testify in favor of or in opposition to the legislation. I also want to point out that we will not be voting on any legislation today. To allow as many people as possible to testify, testimony will be limited to 1.5 minutes per person. That is 1.5 minutes. Okay. Whether you are testifying in person or on Zoom. I am also going to ask my colleagues to limit their questions and comments to 5 minutes. Please note that witnesses who are here in person will testify before those who are signed into the Zoom webinar. I will now turn it over to Women and Gender Equity Committee Counsel to administer the oath.
Hi, good morning. In accordance with the rules of the council, I'll administer the affirmation to the witnesses. I'll call on you each individually for a response. Please raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth before these committees and to respond honestly to council member questions? Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Please state your name prior to your testimony for the record. And if anyone needs an accessible version of the presentation, please email testimony@council.nyc.gov.
Great. So, good afternoon, Chair Lewis and members of the Committee on Women and Gender Equity. I am Saloni Sethi, Commissioner of the Mayor's Office to End Domestic and Gender-Based Violence, or END GBV. I'm joined by Edward Hill, Deputy Commissioner for Research, Evaluation, and Training. NGBV operates the city's 5 family justice centers and directly manages a contract portfolio of prevention and intervention programming. Our office builds capacity for agency staff and community members to identify and respond to domestic and gender-based violence, or DVGBV, through outreach and training. We also develop policies and best practices to strengthen the city's approach to these issues. We collaborate with city agencies, over 100 nonprofit providers, community stakeholders, and people with lived experience to reduce barriers and ensure access to inclusive, culturally responsive services for all survivors. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today regarding domestic and gender-based violence data in New York City. NGBV's research and evaluation team provides data management and analytical support for our programs and initiatives, evaluates key efforts, and conducts research in collaboration with interagency partners. This includes annual reporting on domestic violence initiatives, indicators, and factors that compile data across some of our key programs. The team also produces data and research reports and manages the work of the New York City Domestic Violence Fatality Review Committee. Established under Local Law 61 of 2005, the committee, which consists of representatives from 10 city agencies, 2 district attorneys' offices, 2 community-based domestic violence programs, and 2 survivor representatives, reviews and analyzes domestic violence-related homicide, including intimate partner and family violence homicides, each year to better understand the circumstances surrounding these deaths and assess how victims and survivors accessed or faced barriers to accessing available services and prevention supports. We also oversee the Fatality Advisory Committee, established under Executive Order 36, which will conduct individual reviews of gender-based and domestic violence fatalities. This research-based committee includes representatives from 14 city agencies and will conduct 2 in-depth reviews of domestic and gender-based homicides annually. This committee's work complements the broader efforts of the Fatality Review Committee by providing deeper, case-specific insights to help identify barriers and service gaps. The FAC will complete its first case reviews next year. In addition to the annual analysis of cases involving fatalities, NGBV periodically conducts broader analyses of NYPD data to examine the intersections of intimate partner violence, gender, race, and other contributing factors. These analyses help identify disparities, highlight emerging trends, and inform more equitable prevention and intervention strategies. Together, these efforts ensure that our policies and programs are guided by the full spectrum of survivor experiences reflected in city data. We want to emphasize that in collecting and analyzing program data, NGBV prioritizes survivor safety, confidentiality, and anonymity. When it comes to program data, this means ensuring that we only report data in aggregate form. Our goal is to ensure that all data collection practices are trauma-informed and do not create additional risks or discomfort for survivors. We also strive to minimize the reporting burden on both our providers and survivors themselves. We collect only the information necessary to conduct meaningful evaluations, assess program effectiveness, and identify opportunities for improvement. Since much of our data relies on self-reporting, survivors can choose whether to share sensitive information based on personal experience and safety concerns, which naturally limits the completeness of available data. We support Intro 1188, the informational resource for newly married individuals. Intro 1297 purports to authorize claims against entities brought under the Gender Motivated Violence Act that predate 2022, including claims predating the enactment of the GMVA in 2000. The city, of course, supports the goal of holding perpetrators of gender-based violence to account and supporting victims of such violence. However, there are additional considerations, including the potential for substantial cost considerations that the administration would like to discuss with the council in a separate context. In relation to Intro 1216, we support the intent of the bill to raise awareness and connect survivors with critical resources. However, we note that outreach to cosmetologists is already being conducted under Local Law 39 of 2019. As part of that mandate, our office has distributed printed domestic violence toolkits, posters, and palm cards to salons citywide to help connect survivors with local resources and support services. The same resources are also available online at no cost. We also recognize that there may be challenges related to the implementation of this bill. While we understand its intent, we do not support Intro 459. Currently, anyone who calls 311 and mentions domestic violence is transferred to the city's HOPE hotline. Adding a direct transfer or menu prompt from 311 to the hotline would significantly increase call volume to the hotline and could unintentionally overwhelm the service with misdirected calls. Given that a majority of domestic violence shelter referrals are made through the hotline, such disruptions could directly impact access to safety and support for survivors. We support the intent of Intro 1416, increasing access to data around gender-based violence. However, we also have concerns related to feasibility and privacy. We intend to connect with the council post-hearing to discuss further. We look forward to continued collaboration with the council, our sister city agencies, and community-based partners to strengthen data coordination and advance evidence-based and survivor-centered approaches across our collective work. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. I welcome any questions you may have.
Thank you, and thank you for being here today. Quick questions, and then I'll hand it over to my colleagues. What key indicators does NGBV track when it comes to monitoring domestic and gender-based violence across New York City? For instance, what resources of information does NGBV rely on to monitor those indicators?
So one of the key things that we look at, annually, we get a data set from NYPD of domestic violence incidents across New York City, which provides the location by community district, the zip code, and some demographic information about the survivor and the perpetrator in those offenses. And we use that to map that information out across community districts to see what neighborhoods might be experiencing higher rates or volume of domestic violence incidents. In that data set, we also get domestic violence felony assaults and do the same type of analysis. And we also get domestic violence felony rape information. In addition to that, of course, we monitor data from our programs to see where their clients are coming from, particularly the Family Justice Center information. And so those are kind of the key indicators that we look at.
Does NGBV collect and analyze data of sources from other agencies besides NYPD?
No, not directly. We get information from our contracted service providers across the series of programs that we manage, but not other data from other agencies.
And how does NGBV rely on that data about gender-based violence to inform the city of the work that these providers are doing?
So I mean, on the programmatic level, I think, the programs, we have about 37 contracts that our office oversees. And so for those programs, we're constantly meeting with our providers and looking at data on a regular basis to say, there's an uptick in this, there's maybe need more training here, right? We look at things like how many requests for language access we got on the hotline, for instance, right? That helps us inform sort of where we might want to add language capacity. So we really do that on the programmatic level, I think, mostly.
Mm-hmm. How does NGBV use state or US level data as proxy to analyze or represent what is happening in New York City? For instance, what is the limitations of using statistics that are not specific to New York City?
We do look at federal data collected through the CDC about gender-based violence, and we do look at New York State data that they collect. I think over my career, I find that data does not necessarily reflect the population of New York City. And so while we use NYPD data as kind of a basis to look at the number of incidents, it is the largest data set we have on people who are experiencing domestic and gender-based violence. Although, as was mentioned by counsel, that information is limited to those who do reach out to the NYPD.
Okay. How do concerns about being undocumented affect whether survivors' access to service? For instance, how can the city try to incorporate information about undocumented and their needs without putting them at risk that are experiencing gender-based violence?
Yeah, I mean, so one of the key services that we continue to offer around our family justice centers is immigration legal services, right? And I think that's really important to continue getting the message out that for survivors of gender-based violence, there are unique immigration remedies, and I think that's one thing we can always talk about generally. Unfortunately, we have sort of seen that undocumented folks are less likely to come forward and have concerns around engaging with systems broadly, right? I think for us, this is not data that we collect, right? We don't ask about immigration status across any of our programs because we really don't want to be a barrier to access.
All right, and are there any barriers to implementing 1188?
1188. This is the information, right?
Yes, Intro 1188.
So, I mean, I think we would want to, in terms of barriers, I think we were able to develop the material and share it with the county clerk to distribute it. I think the one thing that we would sort of think about is this a time when someone's going to receive this information well, or is there another time when it might be better received?
All right. And Intro 1416 would require an evaluation of existing data on gender-based violence. How would NGBV approach this particular topic, and what barriers do you see in doing this work?
I mean, to do that type of work, I think we would have to reach out to our sister agencies. Actually, let me take a step back. We would have to take a look at our own data that we're collecting and get an understanding of what we're doing. I think by doing that, lay out some best practices about how to approach our sister agencies about how they're collecting data. And of course, collaborate with them in doing that. And also, I think, set an understanding about the definitions of the data that we're collecting and make sure everybody has the same definitions of domestic and gender-based violence.
Yeah, and I think the challenges are there mostly about administrative burden, on across the board on doing something. It's a big project because survivors are in all of our systems, as you know.
Right. All right, I am going to hand it over to my colleagues. We're going to start with Councilmember Ung.
Thank you, Chair. I just have a quick question about your testimony regarding Intro 459. It says adding a direct transfer menu prompt from 3112 to the hotline will significantly increase the call volume to the hotline. Why? I guess I'm trying to picture why would that be the case? Is the same people who accidentally just hit that if they're not in a domestic violence situation?
Well, so I mean, so currently the hotline does transfer if the 311 does transfer to the hotline if somebody says domestic violence, right? And I think we pulled some numbers, and I think there's a few thousand calls annually that go from 311 to the hotline right now. I think that the concern is that like if people are self-identifying or it's a menu option, that it could unintentionally have a lot of misdirected calls. And kind of looking at the numbers, which I have, it's like the volume of calls to 311 versus the hotline's current capacity. We're looking at it, and even if 0.5% of the calls that go to 311 are transferred to the hotline, that doubles the volume of hotline calls that the hotline currently gets. And that's a very low percentage, yeah.
But if people need the assistance, then I mean, yes, we should work more harder to support the hotline. Of course, I guess I'm just a little confused about why would it inadvertently having that direct transfer inadvertently increase, the call volume to the hotline, unless you think people will accidentally just hit that, direct transfer.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're thinking about error here, right? And sort of an unintentional consequence, not the intentional consequence. I mean, there obviously some percentage of folks will be calling, and they'll be calling the hotline for the services the hotline offers, and there's always going to be some. It happens at our family justice centers, right? We always say when you have something that's open and walk-in, a lot of the work that even happens at our family justice centers is making sure are you in the right place. And I think it's the information is always challenging that way. So I think that's the concern.
No, I appreciate it. I just think more people might know about 311 more than they do know
They
about
do,
the
exactly.
hotline. So that's what I think having that direct transfer on 311 would be helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We've been joined by Councilmember Riley, Councilmember Brooks Powers.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Commissioner. It's good to see you again, as well as you, Deputy Commissioner. Couple of questions pertaining to Intro 1297. So I have to say I was a bit disheartened to see that the admin hasn't really fully come out in support of Intro 1297, which I feel is a really important piece of legislation. I wanted to understand the administration is actively seeking to dismiss survivor cases under the Gender Motivated Violence Act. Can you tell this committee exactly how many survivors the city is prepared to abandon? How many people will lose their right to be heard if these dismissals move forward?
So unfortunately, I don't have that information in front of me, but yeah, we don't have those numbers in front of us.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I'm sorry, we don't have that information, those numbers in front of us in terms of how many cases are trying to be dismissed.
Would you be able to work to get us that number?
We can follow up.
Thank you. Is the administration's position that city agencies and contractors should be shielded from accountability even when survivors allege that violence occurred under their supervision?
So I think some of the concerns are really around the potential costs associated with navigating these claims.
So when you talk about costs, I'm just curious, what message does that send to the survivors across New York City?
Yeah. Again, I think we fully support the intent of this legislation, and we fully support the intent of having survivors get access to justice through being able to file claims. I think we'd love to sort of follow up with council in a different context, because I think there's some other similar acts that have passed around the Child Victims Act and the Adult Survivors Act, and we'd want to talk through some of the experiences, the kind of what we've learned from those other pieces of legislation.
The mayor's office to end domestic and gender-based violence exists to support survivors. How does that mission square with the administration's litigation posture, which has the effect of silencing survivors and denying?
Well, I think this is the challenging nature of this type of legislation, is that it's not just us who are impacted. It'd be easy if it was just our office, but it's multiple city agencies and multiple departments, and so we would love to follow up in a different context.
Okay, I would have loved to have had the conversation prior to the hearing, so that we could have a meaningful conversation about the bill. As someone who formerly worked for this agency and has been an advocate for survivors for quite some time now, it is disheartening to talk about costs when people's lives have been changed forever because of an act of sexual violence against them. And I think that the city, the administration, owes it to the survivors to support this legislation so that they can be able to continue on that healing journey and that they can have full accountability. And so it's my hope that we're able to move forward with Intro 1297 to amend the GMVA so that those who are right now tied up in litigation do not lose their moment. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember. You have any more questions? Okay. The federal government has reduced many agencies and initiatives that track data across the United States. How has NGBV work been impacted by cuts to federal research and initiatives? Please share why.
Yeah, we have not experienced any reduction of information that we need from the federal government at this time. They're still producing reports and surveys on the most recent CDC gender-based violence survey that they did, and as recently as last month, we're still producing reports based on that survey.
Okay. In 2024, Home Flex Funding 180-day report and GBV reports only 4 racial and ethnic categories: Hispanic, Latinx, Black, African American, white, and multiracial, multi-ethnic, omitting groups that are typically included in city data sets such as Asian, Native American, Pacific Islander. Can you explain why these categories were excluded or collapsed, and whether NGBV plans to expand race and ethnicity reporting in future home reports?
The actual data collection tool that we use for that program actually has 10 race and ethnicity categories. In the report, we chose to reflect only those that were actually representative of the clients who had used the program at that point. However, understanding your question, in the future, we'll make it clearer in the report, all the categories that we collect.
Why weren't they all captured?
They weren't captured. We don't. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get this confused. The only categories that were represented in the report were when clients actually designated one of those categories. If a category wasn't designated by a client, we chose to not to represent that in the report, so we didn't have a line that said 0. But I understand your concern of it not reflecting, all the categories that are normally presented in reports, and in the future, we will include all categories, even if there's 0.
So is that data now lost if someone identifies as Asian, Pacific Islander? Where does that information go?
No.
I'm sorry for being confusing. Our data collection tool that our contracted agencies use does include all 10 race and
I heard that
ethnicity
part.
categories.
Yeah.
Right. But then you said,
So it means the
moving
provider.
forward, you'll add all of them. So
Yeah, the provider for this time period reported 0 in all those other categories, right? And so I think we do keep all of the data, the historical data, and this is a shorter time period. This was like the program launch, and I think, as Ed mentioned, it's only 4 out of 5 providers. One of our provider in Queens actually hadn't launched the program yet at this time, so we really anticipate the FY24 report will reflect, hopefully, people from all categories. And if it's 0, we'll put 0 just so it's very clear that we are asking. Our drop-down menu has 10 categories, not 4.
okay. Where does NGBV currently advertise information regarding how to identify signs of gender-based violence and information about gender-based violence services available in New York City? This is regarding Intro 1216.
Yeah. So, I mean, we currently have, our online NYC Hope resource directory, and then our cosmetology toolkit is on our website as well when it comes to the cosmetology outreach. And then we work with salons, who are interested, salons and nail establishments that are interested. We will go to conduct outreach across all 5 boroughs based on our capacity to do that outreach and based on their interest.
So can you share with us, I know the council member couldn't be here with us today, but can you share with us what's the difference between local law 39 compared to introduction 1216? Because I know you all shared in your testimony they can't fully support it. So tell us what the differences are.
So, I think for local law 39, we're already required to conduct outreach and share materials to cosmetology establishments as part of our ongoing outreach efforts. And it's something we've been doing since 2019, with some slowdown during the pandemic. In terms of this new piece of legislation, I think one of the things in terms of implementing it is how we're going to get salons to sort of do this across the board, right? Which is a little bit different than how it's been working now, which is people are kind of opting in and doing it on that basis. And then if we require this, how do we actually, implement and enforce that requirement in some ways? And what does that look like? Because I think that's where some of the challenges and differences come in.
And what are the outcomes from local law 39?
We have our report that we publish annually in terms of like how many times we've, conducted outreach. I think, in some ways, I will say we know that, our outreach has sort of slowed down as our office has evolved and grown, and the staff that were conducting the outreach now have multiple responsibilities, including managing programs. But yeah, we have that, and we can always share those reports with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, those reports actually submitted to council on November 1st of every year.
So there's one coming up.
Yeah,
in a
there's one
couple
coming
weeks.
up.
All right, we look forward to it. The cost estimate of introduction 1416 that was submitted by the mayor's office of OMB, Management and Budget, states that DSS would require 1.75 million in annual PS resources to hire 15 social workers and 1 research scientist to assist in data collection, management, and reporting. What work would each of the 15 social workers perform?
We can follow up with DSS and get you that information.
And how many social workers do you currently have conducting screenings for gender-based violence?
So in our office or at DSS?
Both.
No, so we can follow up. We'll follow up. I mean, in our office, we again across our programs have many.
How many in your office?
In our we don't provide services directly, right? We contract with our community-based organizations, and a lot of them have social workers throughout conducting screenings for
Do
survivors.
you
But
know
we
how
will-
many from the service providers?
We can follow up. We can follow up and look across our programs.
How many vacancies does DSS have for social workers?
We'll follow up with DSS.
The cost estimate submitted by OMB for Intro 1216 states that NGBV would require a staff member to coordinate the work with cosmetology establishments. I know you can't stand this question, but we're going to do it. Do you have an estimate of how many cosmetology establishments this legislation would impact?
We'll follow up on that.
It's a lot of follow-up.
There's a lot in New York City. There's a lot of establishments in New York City.
All right. How many vacancies does NGBV currently have?
Vacancies. I will get you the exact number, but I know we're it's been about the same. I want to say it's about a 25% vacancy rate.
Could this work be conducted by the staff members that NGBV currently employs?
Cosmetology outreach.
Yes.
If we shift them away from other priorities, but I think it's challenging.
Sorry, last question. The mayor and NYPD commissioner announced today a new domestic violence unit, which would have 450 domestic violence investigators. Was NGBV involved in developing this unit or any of its policies?
So we were involved in the focus groups that led to the development of these recommendations, and have worked with NYPD as they've developed these, and we will continue working with them as they implement some of these changes.
All right, thank you. This panel is now excused. Thank you for making time
Thank
to
you.
be here today. I know you want to run out of here. It's okay. Thank you for being here
Thanks.
today. We appreciate you being here. I now open the hearing for public testimony. I remind members of the public that this is a government proceeding and that decorum shall be observed at all times. As such, members of the public shall remain silent at all times. The witness table is reserved for people who wish to testify. No video recording or photography is allowed from the witness table. Further, members of the public may not present audio or video recordings as testimony, but may submit transcripts of such recordings to the Sergeant at Arms for inclusion in the hearing record. If you wish to speak at today's hearing, please fill out the appearance slip with the Sergeant at Arms and wait to be recognized. When recognized, you will have 1.5 minutes to speak on today's oversight topic and or legislation. If you have a written statement or additional written testimony you wish to submit for the record, please provide a copy of that testimony to the Sergeant at Arms. You may also email written testimony to testimony@council.nyc.gov within 72 hours of this hearing. Audio and video recordings will not be accepted. I will call the first panel. J. Hay Fisher, Kavita Melva, Margarita Guzman. I'll do it one more time. J. Hay Fisher, Kavita Mihra, Margarita Guzman. You may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair Lewis and council members who are here today. My name is Gia Fisher. I'm the Executive Director at the Korean American Family Service Center. For over 35 years, KFSC has worked alongside survivors, many of them immigrant women and children, helping them rebuild their lives after abuse. Every day, KFSC meets clients who come to us as a last resort after months or even years of suffering in silence. In 2024, our hotline responded to 4,893 calls, and our advocates supported nearly 3,000 survivors and their family members. Yet these numbers don't tell the full story. So many survivors in our community remain unseen and uncounted. In today's political climate, where rhetoric around immigration and gender justice has become increasingly polarized, many immigrant survivors feel even more isolated and fearful of seeking help. This means the role of trusted, culturally specific community organizations like KFSC even more critical. When survivors come to KFSC, they find staff who speak their language, understand their culture, and most importantly, listen without judgment. I would like to express our strong support for Intro 2012-16 by Councilmember Linda Lee, which would require the city to provide gender-based violence resource posters in hair and nail salons for many women. Salons are safe.
If you could please wrap it up.
And trusted spaces. We also strongly support Intro 1416 by Councilmember Luis, which will help the city better understand where our survivors are seeking help and where resources are most needed. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. You may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair Lewis and council members. My name is Kavita Mehra, and I am Executive Director of Nycc for South Asian Survivors. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today and for centering the needs of survivors of gender-based violence in New York City. Nycc has been working with survivors in the South Asian and Indo-Caribbean diaspora since 1989. We believe transformational change can happen when advocacy and systems reform, community mobilization, and direct support with survivors work together. Through our programs, Nycc believes in a holistic continuum of care, crisis intervention, counseling, legal and housing assistance, financial support, and economic empowerment to over 600 survivors each year. Our multilingual helpline receives over 1,800 calls annually. We're also a founding member of The Collective, a collection of culturally specific gender-based violence organizations working with New Yorkers who have experienced violence. City data on domestic violence is drawn almost entirely from police reports, over 110,000 last year, and it does not account for many of the survivors we work with. South Asian and Indo-Caribbean survivors of violence face overlapping barriers: immigration status, language access, stigma, and economic dependence. That's why Nycc strongly supports 1416, introduced by Councilmember Farah Lewis, to strengthen city data collection. We also strongly support Intro 1216, introduced by Councilmember Linda Lee, which would have multilingual resource posters in hair and beauty salons, a trusted, familiar space for survivors.
You could wrap
Thank
it
you.
up, please. Thank you. You may begin.
Thank you, Chair Lewis and council members. My name is Margarita Guzman. I'm the Executive Director at the Violence Intervention Program, New York City's only culturally specific organization led by and for Latinx survivors of domestic and sexual violence. VIP is also a member of The Collective, a group of culturally specific organizations organizing together on behalf of immigrants and survivors of color in NYC. At VIP, we use data, and data transparency is critical. How many survivors reported DV to their child's pediatrician or to their OBGYN? How effective is HRAs being with their screening methods for families in shelter or people applying for benefits? These are examples of important blind spots in our awareness of how city agencies are interacting with survivors. It seems like the only data point that's being used effectively is police reports, and that negatively impacts immigrants, LGBTQIA survivors, youth, and anybody who doesn't want to go to the police. Survivors deserve an opportunity to be counted and counted in the formation of policy in New York City. I stopped the button. Back on. We support the data collection bill as well as 1216 by Councilmember Lee, and I will just lift up the name of Carmen Iris Santiago, an immigrant from the Dominican Republic and a monolingual Spanish speaker, who was also a mother of two boys, aged 11 and 17 years old, when her husband walked into the salon where she worked in Jackson Heights and brutally stabbed her to death. I don't know if the salon poster bill would have saved her life, but it would have given her a chance to access resources, as it should give a chance to all survivors who might access that information in places where they're comfortable, like hair and nail salons. Thank you for your championing of these bills.
Thank you all. You all may be excused. Thank you for being with us today. We appreciate your advocacy. The next panel, Rachel Brainstein and Dr. Carla Smith. Sorry, Rachel Braunstein and Dr. Carla Smith. All right, you may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair Lewis, members of the Committee on Women and Gender Equity, council members, and fellow advocates. My name is Dr. Carla Smith, and I have the privilege of serving as the Chief Executive Officer of the Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, and Transgender Community Center, known to most New Yorkers as simply the Center. For over 4 decades, the Center has served as a trusted home for LGBTQ+ New Yorkers. Increasingly, we have also served as a lifeline for LGBTQ+ survivors of intimate partner and gender-based violence, people who often experience additional barriers to safety and support. Through our services, we clearly see how data gaps translate into service gaps. When LGBTQ+ people are not represented in data, resources and systems are built as if we do not exist. Despite the progress that the Mayor's office has made, and its partners, the systems that collect and report data too often fail to capture our experiences, especially transgender and gender nonconforming identified individuals, many of whom are Black and brown New Yorkers. While the City Council has a long and proud history of supporting survivors of domestic and gender-based violence through its annual budget, impact legislation, and oversight of relevant city agencies, the data that has underlined important decisions have historically over-relied on police precinct data to the detriment of LGBTQ+ and other marginalized survivors. The Center recommends that the council consider the following changes to current law and policy. Mandate consistent collection of sexual orientation and gender identity data across all city agencies and contracted providers. Include LGBTQ plus experts and survivors in the design and governance of city data systems to ensure inclusivity and accountability, and reevaluate how data is used to allocate funding, ensuring that all city council funded initiatives are grounded not only in reporting incidents, but also community validated indicators of need. This conversation is taking place, as you know, in a highly consequential political moment, one in which the city of New York's leadership carries national weight. In this climate, New York City's example matters more than ever. New York can again lead the nation, not just as a city of inclusion in name, but as a model of what equitable, evidence-informed policy looks like in practice. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You may begin.
Thank you, Chair Lewis and the committee, for the opportunity to be here. My name is Rachel Bronstein. I'm the Director of Policy at Her Justice, a nonprofit legal services organization that advocates with and for women living in poverty. With our pro bono first model, Her Justice serves thousands of clients each year. In addition, we engage in policy reform, advocacy, and research to address systemic barriers facing our clients. Her Justice is grateful for funding from initiatives like DOVE. We applaud the Council for considering how data is used to measure the extent of community need and allocate resources for survivors in the city. It is our understanding that data on the number of domestic incident reports made to the NYPD historically played a significant role in the Council's funding decisions. We're grateful for the opportunity to raise 3 points. First, law enforcement data tells part of the story. While reports of abuse to law enforcement are an important measure of need, research shows that a significant number of survivors do not report abuse. Second, in times of increased enforcement, immigrants and undocumented immigrants may be reluctant to rely on law enforcement. From our own research, we know that, especially given increased enforcement and deportation this year and unpredictable threats of policy change, fear abounds. Her Justice has analyzed our own client data and found that in areas where we serve a substantial number of undocumented immigrant survivors, there are actually lower rates of DV reporting to the NYPD. Third, challenges exist across data sources, even beyond limitations to fully account for the needs of immigrant communities. NYPD data has misaligned geographic levels.
If you could wrap it up, please.
Thank you.
All right, you all are dismissed. Thank you for making time to be here today. Our next panel, Jason Moore, Khalid Melvin, Fawzia Muhammad, Victoria McKenzie. So that's Jason Moore, Khalid Melvin, Fawzia Muhammad, and Victoria McKenzie. Anywhere you want. You may begin. You may begin. You could turn on. Oh, sorry, we've been joined by Councilmember Vernikoff. My apologies.
Good afternoon. My name is Fawzia Muhammad. I'm here today because I was abused not once but twice in 2 different juvenile detention facilities. I was just a child. Instead of being protected, I was handed over to people who saw that I had no one to stand for me. The places that were supposed to help me became places of fear and pain. When something like this happens once, it's devastating. But when it happens again in another facility, it shows that something bigger is very wrong. It means there was no accountability, no oversight, and no one making sure children were truly safe. What happened to me didn't just stay in my past. It has affected every part of my life, my relationships, my ability to trust, my sense of safety in this world. The kind of trauma is never completely goes away. Intro 1297 matters. This bill restores what the City Council intended to give survivors the right to pursue justice from the institution that allowed the abuse to happen. For me, this is about making sure no other child goes through what I did and that survivors can finally have the opportunity to get the justice they deserve. Please pass Intro 1297. It's time for justice, real justice for all of us. Thank you.
You may begin.
Good morning. My name is Khalid Melvin. Um, I was 14 years old when I went to Spa for juvenile detention. Can you hear me? I'm sorry. While I was there, I was abused by staff members, people who were supposed to protect us and guide us. Instead, they took advantage of us. Um, juvenile detention centers are hunting ground for predators that disguise themselves as civil servants. The boys that were detained along with myself were victimized by adults knowing they had the law on their side. So I'm here to ask that let the law be on our side. I understand that data is needed to help analyze and find a solution, but the trauma given didn't need a vote or data collection. Give our hurt a voice, hear what we went through, and see the negative outcome for a lot of us. Um, but because of the recent court ruling, survivors like me might lose that chance. That's why Intro 1297 is so important. This bill gives survivors a real path to justice. It ensures that those who enabled abuse, not just the individuals, but anyone could be held accountable in this situation. All of us. We all have something that we had happen to us that we were either afraid or just too upset to talk about. So help us talk about it, everyone. You understand? Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Jason Moore. I'm 63 years old, but I still carry the pain of what happened to me as a child. I was abused when I was in a juvenile detention center and also at the hands of the Catholic Archdiocese. A place that I thought would keep me safe. Instead, it became a place where I lost my childhood. The people who hurt me had complete control over me and had no way to escape. The trauma that has stayed with me my entire life, there were times that I didn't want to live anymore. I tried to take my own life more than once, and I couldn't see a way out of the pain. No child should ever have felt this hopelessness, especially one who was supposed to have been protected. When the Gender Motivated Violence Protection Act revival window opened, it gave me something I hadn't had before, hope. Hope that I could finally be heard, hope that I could get some justice, not just from the people who hurt me, but from the system that allowed it to happen. Now that the hope is slipping away again because of a court decision that limits the survivors who should be held accountable, that's why this bill, Intro 1297, matter. It gives survivors like me a fair chance to seek justice, to have our voices counted. I'm not looking for revenge or money. I just want acknowledgement to know that what happened to me was wrong and that it will never happen again to another child. Please pass this Intro 1297. It's not just about changing a law. It's about restoring hope and dignity for all of us. Thank you.
I want to thank you all for your strength and for your advocacy today. It doesn't go unnoticed. So thank you for being here and for testifying. We're going to hear now from Councilmember Riley.
Thank you, Chair Lewis. No question. I just have to share my gratitude to all three of you for coming here today and everybody else that came here to share their stories. Hearing from people who actually experienced these experiences, as the brother was talking, a lot of times this is not an easy task for anyone to discuss the trauma that they dealt with. I think it's extremely brave that you guys came here today, and as council members, there's 41 members on this bill out of 51, and we want to be supportive of this bill. So if the administration is listening, please listen to these testimonies from these people that actually experienced it. So thank you for coming here today, and we're going to continue to advocate and fight for you.
Thank you.
All right, you all are dismissed. Thank you for being here.
Thank you all for coming.
The next panel, Corinne Deus, Eva Santos Veloz, Catherine Robb, and Logan Youngberg. That's 3. I'm missing one. Where are we? Sorry, I need to sorry. Corrine, Eva, Catherine, and Logan. While we wait on the next person, you all can begin.
Good morning. My name is Eva Santos Veloz, and I am one of more than 1,000 women who survived sexual abuse by ex-Dr. Robert Haddon. I was assaulted during labor at 18 years old by a New York City Presbyterian OBGYN. And for years, that truth was covered up and silenced by one of the largest institutions in the country, Columbia University. The fact is that they're still covering it. For many years, I lived in fear. I am undocumented, and the fear silenced me. The only thing that gave me the strength to finally come forward was the passing of the Adult Survivors Act, which gave me and many of my sister survivors a glimpse of hope and justice. What happened to us was not just an act of violence, it was an abuse of power. And that power worked overtime to protect itself instead of protecting us. No amount of money can ever undo what was done or repay the years of silence and pain that follow. Because the truth is, it never really buried. No matter how much people try to silence you, the trauma doesn't disappear. But this bill represents the only hope for accountability, just like the Adult Survivors Act did for me and so many of my other sisters. I stand here not just for myself, but for the hundreds of women whose stories mirror mine, who were ignored, dismissed, or pressured because of status to stay quiet. This is not a one gender or one person issue. This is not about money. That's why Intro 1297 is so critical. This bill will give survivors like me and so many others the chance to hold not just the abusers that are doing time already accountable, but also the institutions that are enabling them and are still enabling this abuse. Thank you so much.
You may begin.
My name is Catherine Robb. I'm the National Director of the Children's Justice Campaign at Enough Abuse, and I testify in this legislation all over the country. Right now, we know statistically that 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 13 boys will be sexually assaulted before their 18th birthday, and 1 in 6 women in the United States alone will experience an attempted or a rape. If this is not an epidemic, I don't know what is. Right now, several states, 33 states have passed revival legislation. And we have many more on the books this year. We have 22 states that have completely eliminated the statute of limitations. So this is not some extreme position. This is a national trend, and New York is doing the right thing. I worked on the Child Victims Act. I also worked on the editing for the Adult Survivors Act as well, and I'm happy to be here to support this. We will hear the sky is falling constantly, and we hear things like the courts will be flooded. Well, in New York City, we have over 8 million people and only 11,000 cases were filed. The courts were not flooded. The courts handled it just fine. We also hear, how about due process? Well, I went to law school. I understand and I appreciate due process. These are not your typical slip and fall or car crash type of cases. These are the rape, the sodomy and sexual assault of children and women. I would just like to, if I may, finish with one more thing. We hear a lot about the cost of this. Revival legislation like this shifts the cost away from the victims and the taxpayers of New York to the people who caused it. So we hear about the Epstein estate a lot, right? The Epstein estate, Prince Andrew, and other powerful, deep out-of-pocket institutions should bear the burden of this, not New York State taxpayers, and certainly not the brave victims that are in this room, and the brave victims who have come before all of the people in this room, and the brave victims in the future. I thank you for introducing this legislation. I'm happy to answer any questions about what the country is doing. Thank you for your time.
You may begin.
Good afternoon. My name is Corinne Silva. When I was a child, I was sexually abused by Jeffrey Epstein. I could not come forward before. I wasn't ready. Awareness and courage takes time. Now I am, but Epstein state can argue that I cannot pursue justice because the statute of limitations. I struggle every day I was abused, but I cannot afford proper mental health treatment. Please help me get justice and pass 1295. If you do not pass 97, you will protect Jeffrey Epstein. You have a choice, helping me, a child, sex abuse victim, or protect Epstein. Please help me instead of protecting Jeffrey Epstein. The world still see who you side with and will tell predators in New York City that it's okay to sexually abuse vulnerable children like I was or not. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Logan Youngberg. I am 23 years old. I was a patient of Dr. Darius Paduch, and at the time, I knew that he absolutely had exploited me, but I believed because of his actions and the way he did it, I didn't think that anyone would believe me, and I didn't think that anyone would take what happened seriously, or that there would be any kind of way to hold him legally accountable. I would never have known that he was a serial sexual predator, even though I felt it to my core, had it not been I discovered by chance. I know that there are certainly hundreds of people, much more, who were victims and are not going to have the courage or the awareness to come forward because there is no institutional support that goes back decades. And I really hope this bill gets passed because those people, they absolutely need justice. And it's not about money. It is purely about acknowledging that these people are monsters and they absolutely need to be accountable, and we need to know the length of what they did it. And to know the history of how long this goes back needs to be aware, and people need to know that if it happened 20 or 30 years ago, that it can be brought today. That's all I have to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for being here, for testifying for your strength, and we're going to do our due diligence to ensure that we fight to get this bill passed. Thank you. You all are excused. Our next panel, Emily Miles, Elizabeth Ebright, Dr. Donna Hilton, and Chris Alexander. That's Emily Miles, Elizabeth Ebright, Dr. Donna Hilton, and Chris Alexander.
You may begin.
Good afternoon. My name is Emily Miles. I'm the Executive Director of the New York City Alliance Against Sexual Assault, an organization dedicated to ending sexual violence through education, advocacy, and systems change. I'm here in strong support of intros 1297, 1216, and 1416. Intro 1297 would reopen the one-year window, allowing survivors of gender-motivated violence to bring civil claims against both perpetrators and institutions that enabled their abuse. For decades, survivors, especially those harmed in institutional settings, have been silenced by trauma and then blocked by statutes of limitation. Just weeks ago, a Bronx judge dismissed hundreds of lawsuits from people abused in juvenile detention facilities. Cases thrown out because of deadlines, not because the harm wasn't real. Those dismissals send a clear message. Unless we act, survivors will continue to be re-traumatized by a system that shuts them out. I encourage the City Council to act as swiftly as possible to ensure that the doors of justice and accountability remain open for these survivors, and send a clear message that New York City will no longer protect institutions that look the other way. The time is of the essence for the City Council to act as soon as possible. Additionally, we are in support of 1416. As in the New York City Alliance, we are constantly asked what's the prevalence of sexual violence in New York City, and we actually can't answer that question because nobody measures it. And just one more note, when we rely on NYPD statistics to measure sexual violence, as we currently do, by NYPD's own numbers, they estimate that only 5% of survivors actually report to them. When we talk about who's not reporting, we're talking about immigrant survivors, survivors of color, LGBTQ plus members. We desperately need data bills to be able to tell these survivor stories and ensure that services are going to where they are most needed. So thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Chaplain Dr. Donna Hilton. But before I was Chaplain Dr. Donna Hilton, I was inmate 86G0206. And before that, I can't even remember my ID number for Rikers Island. But what I do remember very clear as an adolescent in a system that said that because I allegedly did something wrong, I was there for correction and also protection, I was sodomized and raped. Out of the 13 months that I spent on Rikers Island, 10 of those months, I was sodomized and raped and abused by a captain. And then I went on further into state system where I was abused again by a sergeant. And so this continues to be a trend within systems that are saying that they're here to protect us. Listening to these stories right now, I can't even sit with myself right now. I'm just disgusted and hurt. I'm continue to be hurt over and over and over and over and over again because we continue to be at tables like this over and over and over again, asking and pleading and demanding that justice be served. And it's not fair to someone to go into a system and to continue to be harmed and abused and raped and sodomized or anywhere, go into a doctor, go into wherever they go. It's not right and it's not fair. And for us to have to sit here repeatedly over and over and over again, and I know it's not your fault, but it is the fault of someone. Someone has to take responsibility. Like how I had to take responsibility, we have to take responsibility. It's about time, damn it, that people are accountable and take responsibility and are held at a standard that they took an oath to stand for. If you're speaking for me, then speak for me. Speak for us. We're tired of having our children being abused, raped, sodomized, our women, our men, people in general. This has gone on far too long, and it must end. So yes, please pass Intro 1297. It's about time. We can't have this continuing to happen. Who are we?
Thank you. You may begin.
Thank you. I want to start first by thanking all of the survivors who've testified today in favor of Intro 1297. Their testimony has been extremely moving. My name is Elizabeth Ebright. I am the Director of Research and Evaluation at Safe Horizon. And I want to start by saying that we enthusiastically support Intro 1297. Trauma takes time. We know that it can take survivors of sexual abuse years and sometimes decades to process the trauma and to disclose what happened to them. our laws must align with the realities of trauma. We urge the City Council to pass this legislation. Survivors cannot wait one more day. And secondly, we wanted to weigh in on Intro 1416. As a director of research and evaluation for Safe Horizon, I know that data is important. Data helps us identify gaps. It helps us better understand where and how we connect survivors to supports and invest our resources. And data informs policy and practice. We also know, however, that data is deeply context dependent. Numbers so often hide the true human story behind the numbers. We support efforts to survey and analyze what data is currently collected by city agencies to better inform where we're directing our dollars. Safe Horizon administers the DOVE initiative on behalf of the City Council, and we're proud of the role and the work of DOVE. We agree that our government should look beyond police data to ensure that all districts are resourced. Our written testimony goes into the questions and considerations we want to highlight about data collection. Thank you.
You all are excused. Thank you so much. All right, for our final in-person panel, Jerome Block, Jordan Mearson, and Anthony D. Petro. All right, you may begin.
My name is Jerome Block from the law firm of Levy Konigsberg. Thank you so much for having us. The first thing I want to say proudly is I'm the attorney for Ms. Muhammad, Mr. Melvin, and Mr. Moore, who testified here today. Those are three of approximately 460 men and women who recently had their case dismissed by that Bronx trial court judge. These are men and women who were sexually abused when they were children in New York City juvenile detention centers by adults, by the very adult staff members that were supposed to keep them safe. And their cases were not dismissed because they weren't credible or because they lacked merit. They were dismissed solely because the incidents of sexual violence perpetrated on them occurred before 2022. So how did this happen? How did this happen when the City Council in 2022 enacted a 2-year revival window, and when the law, as currently written today, gives survivors the right to bring a lawsuit against, quote, any party that enables a crime of violence motivated by gender? This happened because of the SS Rockefeller decision. That decision, at least for now, without passage of Intro 1297, has nullified the 2-year revival window that this City Council fought hard to pass. It has negated the work of this legislative body. That ruling was based on what the court described as a technical flaw in the law. Thankfully, Intro 1297 is co-sponsored by a supermajority of 40 City Council members. It directly addresses the issue pointed out by the SS versus Rockefeller case. It expressly states that these cases can be brought against institutions, even if they occurred before 2022, even if they occurred before the year 2000. And I thank this committee so much for this hearing today, and I urge each of you to vote yes on Intro 1297 in this committee and to push for a full vote as soon as possible. The next stated meeting is October 29th. The votes are there. The votes are there. The support for survivors are there. October 29th, we're asking for a vote to pass Intro 1297, enact this into law. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You may begin. Thank you. Turn on your microphone.
Hi, Hi, I'm Anthony T. DiPietro, and I'm a New York patient safety and medical malpractice trial attorney. I'm grateful to share the backstory about why I'm here today to support these bills. I have now represented over 800 women and girls who were sexually exploited and abused under the guise of medical care by the now convicted serial sexual predator OBGYN Robert Haddon at Columbia University. I am currently representing over 450 men and boys who were similarly sexually exploited and abused under the guise of medical care by another convicted serial sexual predator urologist named Darius Paduch at the Weill Cornell Medical Center. My work in the space has offered me the unique opportunity to see how our civil justice system is truly the last remaining safety net that our community has. Today's corporations and institutions like hospitals and universities have repeatedly proven themselves either incapable or just completely unwilling to police themselves. The one thing that every single case that I've handled has had in common is that the institution always knows the abuse is happening but does nothing to protect their patients. Make no mistake, providing access to the courts with legislation like we're talking about today, may I finish? Doesn't merely help compensate victims for what they've endured. Most importantly, it sends an important message to these corporations and reminds them that the community is watching and that they will be held accountable when they violate their oath and betray the community's trust. Thank you.
You may begin.
Thank you. My name is Jordan Merson, and I'm just going to do two things with my time. I will be much shorter than the 90-second allotment. I want to first thank this committee and the entire group of 41 sponsors of 1297. I also want to thank all the survivors and everyone in this room. I'm pleased to represent this young woman who spoke out for the first time ever concerning the abuse that she suffered at the hands of Jeffrey Epstein. Thank you for coming forward. It makes a difference. And I just want to address like the boogeyman in the room. Like you heard the city talk about costs, and I thought it was a moment of pure cowardice where she wouldn't explain what specifically costs she was worried about. That is like the most hollow argument I've heard. And I'm like these two fine gentlemen next to me. I've represented hundreds, if not thousands, of sexual abuse victims. These cases were supposed to exist. There was a small technicality in the old law. There are no additional costs. These cases were supposed to exist. And even if they weren't, you have someone here who can't afford mental health treatment. Would we rather Jeffrey Epstein pay for that? Or would we rather the city of New York through Medicaid pay for that? The costs of this should be borne by the institutions that did it. And if that happens to be New York City, then New York City should pay for it because it was intended to pay for it under the original law. I couldn't help myself. I went the 90 seconds. Too important of an issue to let even a second go by. So please pass 1297 on October 29th. If you don't, more cases are going to be dismissed. Every time a case is dismissed, a sexual abuse survivor is told they can't get justice. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a quick question for this panel. If this law were to pass and your clients could move forward with cases, how many cases would you bring? Any of you can answer, or all of you can answer.
Are you asking how many cases would be brought in the additional one-year look-back window?
Yes.
I think the number of cases that would be brought in an additional 1 year is not fully known. I think that the fact that when these windows open, more survivors come forward every time speaks to the fact that it's so difficult to come forward, and that many people do not become aware of their rights, during the limited time of these windows. So I don't know if I have a direct answer in terms of how many cases, but I just would say that each case is important in its own right.
And also, I think this goes to like the flooding the court system. That just hasn't happened. Like the Child Victims Act, Ms. Robb testified, the courts are doing fine. The Adult Survivors Act, the courts are doing fine. Mr. DiPietro represents hundreds or over 1,000 survivors. They're getting resolved. These cases are getting resolved. So to say that the overwhelming cost on the court system or any other system, it's just not true. There have been 30 of these survival windows across the United States. The sky hasn't fallen. It's like, it's a common thing you hear in response to just protecting survivors.
If any of you could answer this question, I wanted to know how many cases you all have that are against institutions and how many are against government agencies.
So my firm represents approximately 600 men and women that were sexually abused as children in New York City juvenile detention centers. Those cases are against the City of New York, ACS, and the Department of Corrections. And I just want to say that the city law department is very experienced in resolving cases like this. They are currently doing so with the sex abuse cases that occurred in New York City schools. And they have a settlement program for DOE cases. They have an ongoing settlement program in process with cases from Rikers, the Rose M. Singer Center. And these men and women that were sexually abused in juvenile detention centers should not be entitled to lesser treatment.
I have exactly 0 cases against any government agency. But if we're going to talk about costs, why don't we talk about not just the human cost of these people and what they're suffering, but the city is going to be paying for it anyway. You're having children growing into adults that are underperforming. They're not thriving. They become dependent on Medicare and Medicaid anyway.
Right.
The government is going to pay either way. Why not do it directly and try to make them whole?
And I would just say I have very few. I'm somewhere between the two.
Of city agencies?
Of cases versus city agencies. But what I will tell you, and I think this goes to the import of getting a vote on this immediately, is the city is very aggressively in those cases trying to dismiss these cases. We have tried. One of the lawyers in my office has made repeat phone calls to the city. This is going on. Do not dismiss these people's cases. Do not dismiss victims' cases. When you dismiss a victim's case, we have to call them and tell them that they are not going to get justice. And what we hear on the other side of the phone, I hope no one ever has to hear those types of things. It is just disheartening that these people finally come forward and have a chance at justice, and then it's taken away over a technicality. We said to the city, do not rush to dismiss these cases. There is a new law that would fix it. And they have pressed forward time and time again. They want to wipe these cases and these victims off the map.
So my final question to you all, because my colleagues will be able to hear your testimony afterwards. Why is the existing law insufficient to help your clients?
Yeah, so if I could address that.
Yeah.
The SS versus Rockefeller case says that if the incident of sexual violence occurred before January of 2022, then you cannot bring a civil lawsuit over that incident against any institution or party that enabled sexual violence. And that is so insufficient because 2022 doesn't go back very far.
Right.
And it takes time to process trauma and be able to come forward. So nearly all of these cases occurred before 2022 because it takes a long time. And I would add that that was the whole point of the 2-year revival window, that went from 2023 to 2025, March 2023 to March of 2025. The whole point in enacting that revival window was to allow people to come forward with these cases, regardless of how long ago the violence occurred, against enabling institutions. But because of a technical flaw in the 2022 amendments to this law, that 2-year revival window has been wiped out as applied to the enabling institutions, the enabling parties, the ones most responsible. So for all those reasons, the existing law is insufficient, and I'm really heartened by the huge amount of support and understanding by the City Council to fulfill their promise of protecting the rights of sex abuse survivors.
Thanks. Any of you want to answer? No? Okay. All right. This panel is excused. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you again, all of you.
All right. Our next panel is John Baldwin, Edita Burkrant, Paisley and Bailey, Andrew Staiana. Okay. You may begin. You may begin. Yeah.
Hi, my name's Adita Burnkrant, and I actually run an organization that protects animals and the environment, and I learned about this issue for Intro 1297 fairly recently, and I felt compelled to show up to testify. I'm actually a survivor myself. I've never spoken about it publicly because I didn't have the courage, but hearing all the people here today really I'm just blown away. And as an activist for social justice and all issues that I feel are connected, I was infuriated to learn that it seems that this bill is being blocked or not pushed forward. And I'm just calling on the entire city council to push this forward. You know, the things we've heard today, we have to do everything we can to seek justice for victims, and the cost of not doing that is so much higher than any monetary number. I don't think there's a person alive who doesn't have a close family member or a friend who is a victim of abuse, and this impacts many more people beyond just the victim, families, systems. So I just very strongly push the council past this. Don't waste a moment. It's shameful that we even have to be here pushing for this with 41 co-sponsors. So please, council, do the right thing, pass 1297. Thanks.
Thank you.
My name is Paisley Anna Bailey. I'm a local advocate, and I want to start by saying how deeply moving it is to hear the stories of survivors today. I also want to thank all the people who are standing up for the victims and also the co-sponsors of this bill. It's heartbreaking and unacceptable that so many have been denied justice for so long. I'm here today as a New Yorker who believes in fairness, accountability, and compassion. I'm not here because I'm a victim, but I'm here because I believe survivors, gender-motivated violence, deserve a fair chance at justice. Too many people have suffered violence, carry these experiences for a lifetime, while the systems meant to protect them fall short. Intro 1297 helps correct that. It reopens a door that should have never been closed. Supporting this bill is about moving forward as a city that says, we hear you, we believe you, and your voice still matters. I stand with the survivors who are brave enough to come forward, and I urge the council to do the same. It's a no-brainer. Let's get Intro 1297 passed. It's about time.
Good afternoon, Chair Lewis and members of the Committee on Women and Gender Equity, and thank you for holding this important hearing. I'm here to testify in support of Intro 1216. My name is Andrew Santa Ana, and I'm the Deputy Director of Research and Policy at the Asian American Federation, representing over 70 nonprofits serving 1.5 million Asian New Yorkers. We strongly support Intro 1216. Gender-based violence, domestic violence, stalking, and sexual assault is pervasive in every community, including Asian American communities. Research shows that up to 55% of Asian women in the United States have experienced physical or sexual violence, and 18% have experienced intimate partner violence. Here in New York City, our member organizations, including Nycc for South Asian Survivors, Womankind, Garden of Hope, and the Korean American Family Services Center, provide culturally and linguistically competent support to survivors every day. Salons are trusted, familiar spaces where survivors can feel seen and heard. Stylists are, in a unique way, first responders, confidants who can quietly connect someone to help. Signage that shines light on gender-based violence, elevates the community, elevates this issue and destigmatizes it. That's why this issue is so important. And to make it truly effective, language access must be central. Nearly half of Asian New Yorkers are limited English proficient, and among Asian seniors, that number exceeds 70%. We urge the council to include additional language alongside Chinese, Korean, Bengali, and Spanish. This is not just about a communication, it's about safety, dignity, and equity. Thank you for your leadership on this issue.
You may begin.
Hi, my name is John Baldwin. I appreciate both of you to be here to listen to this. I'm a victim of Dr. Perdue, and my point is that these institutions, the very home of these criminals, make no effort to notify victims when a serious event occurs. Instead, they focus on burying the evidence and moving staff around, fully aware that a possible crime has been committed against individuals and their children. And I had 2 children under him also. The hospital knew all of this, yet they chose to bury it, and rather than inform their patients, a simple phone call or off the record, just take it off the record and call the people and say, this is what's going on. No, they go and they try to bury all the stuff. Or even a message through the patient portal would have been enough. I mean, I had 2 boys, right? I don't know what's going through their minds. I don't know what even happened. And they can't notify me. They have all the contact information, but no, they choose instead to batten down the hatches. If it hadn't been for that simple dinner with a friend that brought it up, that, hey, Perdue is actually involved in this thing and she was actually attached to the trial, we would have never known. I get recall notices for cars, right? Because of safety concerns. And these people, they can't call me? They can't send me something? It's terrible. So, but thank you for your empathy. I could feel it.
Thank you all for being here today. Excused. Audacia Ray and Christopher Leon Johnson. Sorry, and Yasmin Hamza. I don't see. I think he left. All right. You may begin. You have to turn on your microphone.
Hi, my name is Audacia Ray. I take they, them pronouns, and I'm the executive director of the New York City Anti-Violence Project. We provide services and support for LGBTQ survivors of violence. And I'm submitting longer written testimony, but I have a couple things that I wanted to highlight today in my verbal testimony around how gender and sexual identity are talked about in the bills and in the committee's report that was released alongside this oversight hearing. So the committee does flag that there are issues around reporting forms that only have binary genders. I myself am non-binary and also a survivor, so my data would not be captured appropriately in those spaces. And so it's a fairly simple, I know the computer systems, everybody talks about that being a problem with adjusting the fields, but it is an easy fix. And it also needs to be partnered with training around cultural competency so that folks who are collecting the data and interfacing with survivors are not being dismissive or not even asking questions about folks' name, identity, gender, stuff like that. And the other thing that I wanted to identify that's was kind of a larger issue in the oversight report is that it's consistently identifying women as survivors and making that just equitable. Women are survivors. And so I just wanted to encourage looking at the diversity of language because all people of all genders are both survivors and people who do harm. And that's a really important thing to look at when providing services. I will wrap up. I have a tool that's an assessment of to help service providers to analyze how they're doing with providing encouraging space for LGBTQ survivors, and I'll share some copies of that. Okay. And that's a way to help people really look at what needs to be moved forward to make sure that survivor spaces are welcoming to everybody.
Thank you. You may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair Lewis and council members. I'm Yasmin Hamza, CEO of Womankind, an API culturally specific gender-based violence organization in New York City. We offer emergency shelters, counseling, legal assistance, and more, and are proud members of The Collective, a coalition of culturally specific gender-based violence organizations. In 2024, we answered over 4,000 calls on our multilingual helpline and served over 2,600 clients, but we know that our data only reflects a fraction of survivors in New York City. Many survivors, especially immigrants, communities of color, and marginalized groups, avoid law enforcement altogether, and that's due to fear of police, immigration enforcement, and just not being understood. This leads to major gaps in the city's data, which relies heavily on police reports. Survivors often come to trusted community organizations first, not police, because of cultural familiarity and language access. Our multilingual staff are able to help bridge the gaps and guide survivors to medical care, legal protections, and housing, but even then, survivors hesitate to disclose their experience, and the data that's collected is often siloed. To meet survivors' needs, the city really must collect and publish data from places survivors regularly engage with, such as hospitals, shelters, HRA, ACS. Without inclusive data, planning and funding for services will fall short and not meet the needs of survivors. We recommend that when that data is collected, it's published and the data annually, and it ensures transparency and the equity of service delivery. Sorry, I know I'm done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Is there anyone else in the room that signed up to testify, but your name was not called? All right, we're gonna now move to Zoom testimony. First person is Jessica Shidlow.
Good afternoon, Chairwoman Lewis and members of the committee. My name is Jessica Shidlow, and I serve as the legal director for Child USA, which is an interdisciplinary nonprofit dedicated to preventing child sexual abuse and securing meaningful access to justice for survivors. Thank you for the opportunity to testify in strong support of Intro 1297, which is a precise and necessary correction to restore this council's original intent for the Gender Motivated Violence Protection Act. As a result of the court decisions narrowing the 2022 look-back window, survivors who filed exactly when and how this council invited are being turned away at the courthouse doors on a technical reading rather than being heard on the merits. And over 700 plus cases are presently at risk of being dismissed absent passage of 1297. Across the country, revival windows have uncovered long-hidden patterns of abuse, improved institutional practices, and delivered accountability where criminal prosecution was unavailable. Yet access to justice remains uneven. Survivors still encounter these outdated limitation periods, ambiguity about who can be sued, and procedural defenses that eclipse the merits, barriers that fall hardest on those who were children when the harm occurred. 1297 restores equal treatment under the GMVPA by giving survivors.
Time has expired.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Dr. Candice L. de Blasio.
Starting time.
Dr. Candice L. de Blasio.
I'm sorry, I was having technical problems.
All right, your time has started.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Dr. Candice de Blasio, and I come forth to you today because my husband had fallen prey to Dr. Reginald Archibald when he was a young teenager. His mom has been devastated with this news, and we just found out about these concerning facts only 2 years ago. My husband did not even realize as a young teenager that what Dr. Archibald was doing to him, having him perform, was not normal. While looking for information about my husband's bone disease, we tried to locate former doctors. I Googled Dr. Archibald's name and realized that what had intended to help him provide medical care in absence of a parent being present was in fact sexual molestation and abuse. I was not aware that there was a time restriction. I just ask that you search your hearts and think about, what if this was my son or daughter involved in a gender motivated act of violence by someone you entrusted your child with, especially a renowned doctor and institution such as Rockefeller Institute. I implore you to please pass and this Look Back Act of number 1297 so that these poor victims that we heard today can have their stories heard, and to allocate justice for these survivors of the heinous abuse and emotionally and physically have scarred them forever. I thank you in advance for your time and consideration today. Thank you.
Thank you. John Lopez.
Starting time.
John Lopez. John Lopez. Next, we have Ron Lucas.
Starting time.
Yes, hello. Thank you for your time here today. My name is Ron Lucas. Uh, Telling my wife and my two sons what happened to me as a young boy was incredibly difficult. I had lived my whole life feeling angry and ashamed, and now I have this law that says sorry, it never happened. Was devastating. When it happened to me, I was 12. No one ever went against the Catholic Church. It was never discussed again. The incident was never acknowledged by anyone from the church or CYO organization. My parents, who were immigrants, never spoke about it, not to me or anybody else, as if it never happened. Not allowing any victim an opportunity towards justice and resolution should not have a timeline. I wish this never happened to me. I know my life would have been different. Um, and now this law says the same thing to me again, like it never happened, all over again. I really think that throughout the years, I we as victims um, need to get some resolution, sometimes through therapy or whatever. But it was devastating to me. Um, and I wish it never happened. I wish it never happened to me. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for joining us. Now we're going to hear from Thomas J. de Blasio.
Starting time.
Thomas J. de Blasio.
Okay. Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me?
Is this Thomas?
Yes, it is.
All right, you may begin.
Good afternoon. My name is Thomas James de Blasio. I'm coming here to you today, let you know that I am a victim of Dr. Reginald Archibald. These acts occurred when I was a teenager. I did not come forward before this. I only found out about this situation a year and a half ago. Unfortunately, I didn't know there was a time restriction. I've been directly emotionally, physically, and sexually affected by his abuse, and I'm hoping by coming to you today, you will approve the new law, give me the opportunity to have justice for myself and other survivors who are innocent children taken advantage of and not protected. Please pass this law so these victimized teenagers who were abused prior to the year 2000 can receive justice. I was deeply affected by the acts of the gender-motivated violence. I urge you to pass this law today. Thank you for your consideration and my request.
Thank you. John Lopez. John Lopez.
Hello?
All right, you may begin.
Hello? Can you
Yes,
hear me?
we can hear you. You may begin, John.
Oh, good. Thank you so much. Okay. As an individual who has been a victim in the past, I am grateful for the opportunity to be heard today. Whether it was a year ago, 10 years ago, or 40 years ago, as a child, you don't forget these things that were traumatizing. I've lived with this pain for over 40 years. Keeping it inside and now having to relive this as I speak today is deeply saddening. For all these years, I've kept this trauma hidden from my closest friends and family, those who are dear to me, because it's been too difficult to share. Today, I'm just asking for a change. It's time to make things right and pass this law for all those who have been affected in the past. I just want to thank everyone for their time and for allowing me to speak and be heard today. Thank you.
Thank you. We see a Zoom user, no name, Zoom user. You're identified as a Zoom user with no name. All right, we're gonna hear from Alex Stein. Alex Stein. Is there anyone else on Zoom that would like to testify? One last call for either Zoom user or Alex Stein. All right. All right, I just want to thank everyone for coming out today. Those of you that testified or just came to support or hear more about these bills today, I really want to thank also the attorneys that are representing your clients today and the plethora of attorneys that you have, clients that you have across the country. As a survivor myself, I truly understand a lot of the testimonies that I heard here today. It doesn't matter if you go to therapy, it doesn't matter, all the steps that you could take. The trauma never goes away. Healing is a journey, it's a marathon. So I want to thank all the survivors for being here today, for your strength and your courage. I hope you all continue in the fight with us to ensure that this bill gets passed, 1297. If you're here for other bills, I hope you stand in the gap with us as well. It is going to be truly a fight. So asking you all to stick with it and stand with us as we stand with you. With that said, if anyone wants to submit additional testimony, you could submit that at testimony@council.nyc.gov. Thank you all for being here today, and this hearing is now adjourned.